First of all, I want to thank Daniel Ben Hamu for setting this event up. Beautiful, man. He says you have to come to Sunny Isles at 9:30 at night. I'm like, 9:30 at night? I'm in bed, my friend. So I can't believe this is even going on in Sunny Isles. I don't think they've had enough these amount of people since Yom Kippur in the synagogue. So it's a big deal. All right, so I was discussing what topic. I didn't know the crowd, but obviously I think we need to go into a little bit of the singles, a little bit into the masculine energy, and God willing, we'll touch on. And whoever's not on my podcast, I have a podcast, daily podcast on Spotify. It's under my name, Instagram, etc. This is just, you'll get a taste a little bit tonight, but really the key is the follow through. And what I do is I combine modern psychology and Torah and very practical wisdom. I myself was 22, 23, living in Florida. I was dating a non-Jewish girl. I had no mazal. I couldn't get married, depression, etc. So I know what it is to be lost in Miami. I always say when we get to Miami, we go MIA. As soon as we get to the airport, we go MIA. And the key really is to get back into your right energy. Okay? The most important thing to get real results in life is to change your intention and change your attention. Intention, attention. I don't know anybody's spiritual level here, but we've done this for so long, I can almost guarantee the people that are going to get what they want, you need more focus. And you need better intention. If we think we're going to go through either getting married or attracting the one or financially or anything, because at the end of the day, everything we really want is in higher consciousness. The goal of these classes, the goal of this class is also Gedale, success of my wife and kids. But the real goal that we want to get is higher consciousness. In higher consciousness is when we start attracting things in our life. In a lower consciousness, we start chasing things in our life. So the real goal of these classes is to get you into a higher consciousness. The same way people want to say, we want to get high, right? We want to go get high. What do you want to get high on? Higher consciousness. You understand? What are we getting high on? Higher consciousness. That's the goal. And when we don't live to our standards, we live in lower consciousness. And we live in lower consciousness, then we go through things in life as chasers. We don't attract things in our lives. Because at the end of the day, our sages tell us, if you fix your conditions, if you fix your state, if you're happy, if you have trust in God, things are supposed to come to you. If things are not coming to me, that means there's a blockage in these states. So what am I doing? Then I have to go change my conditions to go get them. So extremely important. In Judaism, it doesn't work. Conditions make me happy. States change conditions. Okay? It's completely the reverse. States change conditions, not conditions change states. For example, if I start having trust in God, and I start working on my happiness and working on my joy and eliminating certain behaviors, then the right things will come to me in my life. Okay? We think, well, if I'm not married, I can't be happy. Ask so many married people if they're happy. You understand? It's not guaranteed just because what you get is going to be happier. So our job is really to change the condition, to change the states that we're in. The biggest way you can change the states you're in, I'm going to talk to you. There's 4 types of givers. There's 4 types of states from the Baal Sulam. I don't know if anybody has heard a little bit about Kabbalah teachings, but our job really is to transform from receiving to giving. Our job, just like we were born with a tendency to receive, our whole concept in this world is to change from receiving to giving. To the degree that we change from a receiver to a giver, we end up getting new shefa in our lives. I'm going to give you an example. The first level, the Baal Sulam says, the first level of energy is receiving to receive. That's when we walk around in a snake consciousness, when all we want to do is receive. All we're thinking about is receiving. What am I getting out of this girl? What am I getting out of this guy? What am I getting out of this situation? All we're thinking about is, what are we getting? What are we getting? This is a state where we're going to suffer the most depression, anxiety, sadness, and everything. When all we think about is receiving. I'm going to give you examples of this. So when we're thinking, what am I getting? I want to go put on tefillin so I can be successful. I want to go... All we're thinking about is receiving. That is the lowest state of energetic level. Then there's the next stage of energetic level, is giving to receive. What does that mean? That means I'm actually giving, but the sake why I'm giving is only to receive. For example, I am doing this, I'm court-ordered into treatment, but I don't really want to go to treatment. I have to keep Shabbat, otherwise I'm going to get kicked out of the house. If I don't do this, I'm not going to get this. The whole intention of giving to receive is that you should get something back from it. The problem with this is, there's still a problem. What's the problem with this? That you're still not giving with the right intention. Your intentions are really to receive. Now, women in general are receivers, men are generally givers. Today, we've had a change in that energy today, where we have to get back to the right energy. The third stage is giving to give. That means when you're doing something to give. Your intentions are only to give. I want to give charity because it's the right thing to do. I want to pray because I want to connect to God. Not I want to pray to get. Not I want to put on this so I can get a reward out of it. I want to do it because I want to give to give. When you master giving to giving, what happens is you become a channel for the divine. Then you become a receiver to give, which is the fourth stage. So remember, 4 stages. We are all in a situation in our lives where we are, if the intention is off, the channel is blocked in heaven. If our intentions are off, if I'm praying to get, what happens if I don't get? I stop praying. If I'm praying to hook up with this girl and she's not hooking up with me, lose her number. You're in receiving energy. You're in receiving energy. This is a catastrophic situation for guys. Because guys are supposed to be masculine and givers. But when guys don't become men and they get into the feminine energy, all they want is receive. And when they want to become receivers, then what happens is God cannot channel money through them. God cannot channel a wife through them. God cannot channel nothing through them because they're receivers instead of givers. So this society today has made men very, very weak. And this is an area where you have to really, really fix. Because it's affecting parnasa, it's affecting soulmates, it's affecting your self-esteem, it's affecting everything across the board, by the way. Across the board. So we have to think about, now what are practical things of giving? How do I practically give? I give when things are very difficult for me to do. Giving this class was not an easy thing to do. I run a treatment center, doing a class at 9:30 at night. Tough thing for me to do. I could be in bed right now. I could say, you know what, Daniel? See you later, brother. Next week, next month. No, you know what? I have to break my nature. It's not normal for me to do this. I'm going to do this right now at 9:30 at night. It's my nature is to go to sleep. I break my nature. Breaking your nature is giving. Breaking your nature is giving. Doing something that's difficult for you is how you become a giver. Doing things that are easy for you is how you become a taker. Is how you become a taker. Now what happens when I become a taker my whole life? Then I suffer from low self-esteem. Because I'm always looking on the outside in, not the inside out. Does everybody understand this concept so far? The key is we're supposed to just be the channel for the divine. But when we are sitting there, if our intentions are only to receive, then at the end of the day, we're not happy with anything we're doing. This is why a lot of people have disconnected from spirituality, from Judaism, because they didn't receive anything. Why did they receive anything? It's because their intention was to receive. Very simple. If your intention is to receive, you'll never connect. You'll never connect. And this is why I needed Rabbi Nachman's teachings when I was 22, 23 in Miami Beach. I was very disconnected from synagogues or anything. It was boring. It was very robotic. And then Rabbi Nachman really, he changed the way I saw things in life. The reward for giving, the reward for growth, once you do difficult things in life and you grow, you become a giver. The reward for giving is your purpose in life. That's the key. So if we don't become givers, then we all of a sudden, not only do we not grow, but if we don't grow, we can't give. If we can't give, then we lose our purpose in life. And we live watching everybody else succeed in life. So think about today, one thing that is extremely difficult for you, that you normally I don't do this. Think about breaking something because you don't want to be a receiver anymore. Think about something. Whether for men, I always say it's a 40-day challenge. 40-day challenge is being able to be in your masculine energy. People will respect you. You don't need Andrew Tate to scream at you, telling you you're not being a man. Okay? We don't need Andrew Tate. We need to realize that God gave us the ability to be men, and God gave us the ability to He's going to channel Shefa through you. Thank God, my podcast has changed thousands of lives. And it all started by people having self-control and having self-confidence, specifically for men. Because that's how you're going to attract your wife, that's how you're going to attract Shefa, etc. To the extent where we're just going out with girls to take or to receive, with no intentions of marriage. All we want to do is get. I want to get with that girl, you're going to end up getting nothing. So that's very, very important. What is your intention of what you're doing? If you prepare the intention and you put the right attention, you'll change absolutely everything. When you start realizing the difficult things, when you break difficult things, that's how you build your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is very, very connected to yourself. My self-esteem and my humility go back in hand. So think about this practically. What areas of your life can I change right now? If it's, I don't do Shabbat, I don't do candles, I don't do this, I don't do this. It's not for me. We're traditional, we're this, we're this. You're just doing what you want. You have to, in order to do something, and this is why our sages tell us, when you break your nature below, God breaks his nature above. So let's say something you really need in life. Even though your intention is to get. When you change your nature below, you end up getting a change your nature above. So once I've mastered giving to give, then what happens? God takes over me, and all of a sudden, then he provides me with abundance. For example, let's say you give charity. Let's say you give 10% to charity, right? And all of a sudden, God says, you know what, this guy's giving so much charity, let me give him more money to give charity, because he knows that it's not going to get to your head. But let's say you make tons of money and you don't give charity. Then at the end of the day, because you're worried about receiving, God says, well, this guy at the end of the day, the money's not going to be good for him. So he stops the Shefa flow. This is why our sages tell us, when money's running out, the solution is to give charity. Rabbi Nachman says that many things bring to Parnasa. Number one, being in your masculine energy, being Shmirat HaBrit. Second, avoiding anger. Third, taking responsibility. Money comes through the wife, not the girlfriend. Do you understand? Shefa comes through responsibility. Shefa comes by taking responsibility, by signing the contract. This class was not prepared by the women, guys. But everything's about taking responsibility. That's what God says. When you sign a contract, and says, I will provide, and I will take responsibility, then he becomes a man. And because he took responsibility, I will provide for him. So when we are providers, when we take responsibility in life, God channels through us. Not because of us, through us. So we unless we start realizing that we have to change our nature, and this is what the Baal Sulam, the Arizal, Rav Nachman, that's what we're here. We're all born with some kind of negative things in our lives. Some of us have major sadness. Some of us anger issues. Some of us have, major trust issues. Some of us have, trauma we haven't let go. We're all born with something. We all have an issue, all of us. To the extent that we change our nature, then God changes his nature for us. This is exactly what Kabbalah means. Kabbalah is as below, so is above. So just like anything else, any time that we're stuck, it's because we need to change our nature. And this is what we are here to do. This is how we are able to change our nature. When we change our nature, we can change everything in our lives. This is exactly about Kabbalah. That's why if you just go to Kabbalah centers and we're not doing any work, and you're just focusing on the Creator and the light, you're not going to get nothing. Well, maybe you're going to get a subscription. That's it. Where's the work? Where's the self-control? It's more than just connecting to the light and focusing on the light and meditating on the light. No, I have to go into the darkest areas of my life and fix them. Believe me, guys, I run a treatment center. I own a treatment center. And the price of when you don't grow is addictions. The price when you're not being your best self is sadness and addictions. That's the price in life that we pay. And this is why Miami is a very tempting town. It's not there's no, look at the Dolphins, they can't even win in the cold, for God's sake. It's a soft town. The town can make you soft. This town can make you soft if you're not focused. And you have to be careful. You have to be careful because in 1 minute, you could be in, how did I get here? This town it's beautiful, palm trees, synagogue, everything's here. But you can get very lost in this town. You can get very lost in this town if you're not focused. And if you're not in your masculine energy. And you need to understand that. It's very, very, this town has a lot of temptation, a lot of Yetzer Hara, that you really, really have to get focused on a real schedule. What are other forms of giving? Faith. Faith is giving. For example, if my rationality is to be negative, or just to be focused on the negativity that's happening in my life, when I start becoming joyful, when I start becoming happy for absolutely no reason, I am now a giver. So this is where, for the women, they have to work on this a lot. Because the tikkun for the women were men, the tikkun for the men is really discipline in the Brits. Discipline in that area. That's the test for them. For women, the tikkun is happiness and letting go of control. We knew that Eve, what was Chava? She was hyper independent. She didn't want to rely on man. So what happens? Because she didn't want to rely on man, life became in disorder. So the tikkun for women is control, is letting go, forgiveness, being able to see the positivity in somebody, being able to say I'm sorry once in a while. It's okay. You can say I'm sorry. You're not losing control. Being able to let go. Forgive. Forgiving. That's the tikkun for the woman. We're all very, very different. We all have a different struggle. But when we change our nature, God changes his nature. When you make a move below, there's a move above. Every single chance you have is to change the shefa that's coming to you. Every single opportunity is to do that. But the worst thing is when we go to singles parties and we have no direction. People ask me, I need you to throw a singles party. Well, with what? Just you want me to be the host? If there's no instructions, what are we doing here? There's going to be the same party over and over. The guy's not going to go up to the girl's going to be upset at home, and rewind. What are we doing? You have to give instructions. You will attract the right girl in your life and the right financial situations. I swear to you, I promise you. If you're in your masculine energy of having self-control, your intentions should not be to date. Your intentions should be to be married. Your intention should be to procreate and have kids. Your intention should be the right intention. And then when you're aligned with that intention, God makes it happen for you. But if you're like, I don't know about marriage, I don't know about dating, I don't know about this, it's not for me. Okay, Shefa, also not for you. This is also not for you. And you can't be enjoying this lifestyle too much. I enjoyed it for 22, 23. I threw parties in South Beach, but at the end of the day, you realize it's a dead end. It's a dead end. Okay, what's next? And that's where you have to realize you have to take responsibility in your lives. It's extremely important. Rav Nachman says the first place to do that is fixing the Tikkun Brit. Fixing the Tikkun Brit and being in that energy of self-control and self-confidence. And then what happens is, because you have self-control and self-confidence, you're going to feel happier. People who are disciplined are very happy today. If you ask people who are disciplined, whatever area you're disciplined in today, there's a lot of happiness there. But the areas of your life when you need emunah, you're taking marijuana. Do you understand? You're weakening yourself. You're weakening the vessel. You're not holding on to these challenges. The areas of your life where you have to rise up, you're not channeling it the right way. And this is all going to affect your self-esteem. What is self-esteem practically? The self-esteem is how much effort am I going to deal by having short-term pain for long-term pleasure. That is my self-esteem. My self-esteem is how am I going to deal with short-term pain for long-term pleasure. Person with self-esteem, he just ran 3 miles on the marathon. He's not going to go stuff his face with a chocolate cake unless he has low self-esteem. You just burnt 1,000 calories, you're going to lose them 2 minutes later on a chocolate cake. So when we lose our self-esteem, all we're concerned is, what am I getting right now? I don't care about my future. We become very, we don't have delayed gratification. All we want is instant gratification. So when we live with instant gratification, we're pushing away the future self. We're going to take questions soon, but we're pushing away the future self. So again, this is not even Judaism, it's discipline. It's called discipline. David Goggins, you can hear anybody. When there's no discipline, there is no freedom. No discipline, no freedom. You know why? Because if you don't trust in yourself, you won't invest in yourself. Does that make sense? If I don't trust in myself, I'm not going to plan long term. I'm not planning long term if you don't trust in yourself. For example, the Heat, they can't rely on Jimmy Butler. They're not building a franchise with Jimmy Butler. They're not doing it because they can't trust him. He shows up, he doesn't, he plays the game. It's not a long-term player. It's not a guy you're going to say, this is a franchise. Bottom line, it's not a franchise. It's a guy who's going to come in, one day he feels like playing, doesn't feel like playing. We can't build anything like that. So the example of that is, if you don't sit there and say, hey, what am I building for the long term? What's my long-term picture? What's my legacy going to be like? Then I start realizing, when I start making short-term situations that are not good for me, I start putting the energy in prayer. Now our sages tell us that we are all born with, let's say for example, we have these issues in our lives. And God gave you these issues. Your job is not to worry about the results. Your job is to focus on your intention, your desire to beat it. So let's say I have an addiction. Let's say I have this issue. Let's say I have an anger issue. Let's say I can't let go. My job is to schedule 20 to 30 minutes a day, asking God to help him remove this spiritual imperfection for me. We don't get judged on the results. We get judged on the desire to change the results. Remember that right. Remember that line. We don't get judged on the results. We get judged on the desire to change the results. Big difference. That means if I have an issue in my life, and I'm upset about that issue, all I have to do is put time and ask God to help him remove this. Remember, God put you in Egypt. He's the one that's going to get you out of Egypt. This is the way he introduced himself to us. I'm the one who took you out of Egypt from the house of slavery. What is the house of slavery? An addiction, a sexual addiction, an anger issue, of control. That is a slavery. That's your slavery. But who's going to get you out? I'm the one who put you there. And I'm going to be the one that takes you out of it. So for example, when you have to ask yourself, are you spending 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day with something that's affecting your future? If the answer is no, what do you expect to get? What do you expect to get? What do you expect? So we have to allocate certain time in desire. That's why sometimes not being answered is better than being answered, because all God is interested is in the desire itself. He's interested in the desire, he's interested in the relationship, becoming closer to us in that situation. If you have a problem that you're not a giver, you should pray God, right now, I'm suffering with low self-esteem. All I want to do is receive. I can't handle any form of pain. I can't even picture myself becoming a giver to others. And the fact that it bothers you that you're a receiver, that itself is the beginning of the salvation. But when you're a receiver and it doesn't bother you, then we have a problem. We have a problem. We have a problem. You became desensitive to the situation. You lost your sensitivity to that situation. So when we change our nature, we become givers. When we become givers, we grow our self-esteem. The more we grow our self-esteem, the more humble we become, the more God comes into our lives, the more shefa and blessings comes to our lives. Everybody understand this? I know it's a little late. Everybody comprehending this? We're going to open up for questions afterwards. But the more effort I work on myself, the more effort I put on myself, this is helping my self-esteem. When I have self-esteem, it's going to be very hard for me to give up. When I have self-esteem, it's going to be very hard for me to be a victim in a situation. Because I'm saying, listen, I'm worth the value. If you're worth the value, then you invest in the value. But when we don't have self-esteem, then what happens? We end up blaming others, we end up becoming victims, we end up doing things that are easy instead of things that are good for us in our lives. And this is why the Rav Nachman says for men, if they fix the Brit, they can break everything, because it's the hardest one. Once you change that, you can change anything. You can break anything in your life, because that is the hardest one. And Rav Nachman also tells us that when we're sad, we end up going in that direction. Anytime there's sadness, you're just going to be chasing. And why am I sad in the first place? Rooted in it's because I'm not taking on responsibility. I'm running away from responsibility. Therefore, now I'm chasing, and the more I chase, the more I get rejected. You understand? It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle. The more I chase something, the more I get rejected, the more I feel worse about myself. The more I chase again, the more I get rejected, and it becomes a vicious, vicious, vicious pattern. Vicious, vicious, vicious pattern in life, etc. So when we are in that confidence, people want to be around you. And the same thing with women. Women have to work on letting go. Letting go. Past relationships, letting go. If it didn't work out, what did you learn from it? And letting go. You shouldn't stay in the past. You shouldn't blame the messengers. You shouldn't blame my boyfriend ruined my life. I'm depressed because of my this. Or I'm looking for a man for happiness. All that. You have to work on the internal game. It's extremely important. You have to work on the internal game. Because all our relationships, every relationship, Rav Nachman says, it's going to be like this. Up and down. Up and down. Just like the moon. The Jews are not compared to the sun. The Jews are compared to the moon. You understand? We are like the moon. The moon's full, great, we're in a great mood, we're inspired. Then there's sometimes that the moon we can't even see the moon. And so our mood swings spiritually are just like the moon. We have these tremendous ups and we have these crashes, but you have to understand this is the cycle of life. And the same thing in relationships. The relationships is exactly like the moon. Understand? Everything's great. Next thing you know, you're on vacation. The palm trees, beautiful palm trees. The next day, you're getting hit in the head with a coconut. Do you understand? There's always that cycle of ups and downs. So we have to realize that sometimes a problem in the relationship doesn't mean the relationship's a problem. It's an energy. It's a shift. It's a shift that we have to go through. Because just like I said in my podcast the other day, we walk around with asking for everything to be good, we couldn't handle it. We could not handle too much goodness. And the analogy is, imagine going to a soccer game with no goalie. Go to a soccer game with no goalie. You won 100-0. You think you're going to show up the next day? Who's going to show up the next day when you win 100-0? Nobody. Why? Because there's no point. So when we're thinking, why isn't life easier? If life was too easier, you would never appreciate the good. It would run through you. You could not appreciate it. It's only when you have resistance that makes you grow. So this is another area in our lives that there's a lot of failure, but the purpose of failure is to expand your vessels. It's not God's victimizing you. It's to expand your vessels. Just like you go to the gym, you work out. What do we work out? We work out till failure. Why do we work out till failure? Because we're tearing a muscle and we're rebuilding it. But if you want to go to the gym and work out with styrophones, you're not going to build any muscle. So that's another thing in our life, how we handle failure. How do we handle these things in our lives? These vessels, what they do is expand our consciousness. Problems expand your consciousness if you handle them right. They're not meant to keep you in trauma, etc. So there's a lot of things here there's a lot of work to do here, and a lot of this stuff really, if it comes down, it comes down to a lot of reframing. It comes down to looking at the situation completely different. But I'm going to be honest with you. When I was 22 years old and I was living in Miami, and I was hooking up with the wrong girls, the Torah went in and out. In and out. So there's certain things that you have to fix that it's just, you're not going to be able to grasp it until you are in the right energy. So tonight, maybe we could delete some numbers, Christina, Joanna, Maya, whatever, from Hialeah, all these girls, they have no business on your phones. Do you understand? You need to delete numbers. The more numbers you delete, the more money in the bank account. Do you hear me, guys? You need to delete numbers. We're here to delete numbers. I should take everybody's phone and wipe it out tonight. You don't need a backup right now. There's a lot of, see, everybody laughs because they know they're right. You need to delete some numbers. As soon as Rabbi Nachman said in Sefer Hamidot, sexual impurity leads to poverty, my phone got cleansed in 1 day. 1 day. That was it. You need to clean some numbers. You need to clean some numbers. You start cleaning numbers, that means you're serious. If you come out of this class, which was at 9:30 for me, which I should be in bed, and you come out of there, nice class, and you don't delete numbers, and you don't do anything, then you're going to repeat the same thing again over and over again. I might as well talk to the wall. So realize that you don't get these classes all day long. You need to delete some numbers. Lose your phone, for God's sake. Do a wash. Because without that, you're going to get the same thing. There's no way you're going to succeed if you have a cheerleader on the side and expect to attract your wife. It's just, you can't have it your cake and eat it too. Tough shit. That's the way it is. And you need to understand that. And I wish somebody spoke to me when I was 22 this way. You know what Rabbi told me? Give charity, everything's going to be okay. Have emunah. What do you mean I have emunah? I have non-Jews on my phone number. What emunah? Tell me what to do. Don't give me fluff. Tell me what to do. I want to win. I want to win. Don't give me a fluff answer. Tell me what to do. I want to win. And that's how you need to be spoken to right now. You need a little Moroccan energy, and you need to be spoken like this. And when you speak like this, you're going to get results. That's all I'm telling you. It's not easy, but remember, when you do this, you become a giver. Your happiness will come when you get married with a wife and kids. That is your happiness. Your Friday night coming home with a wife and your kids. I promise you, that will be worth more than going to whatever stupid restaurant with some girl taking a selfie and saying, oh, look at the night, what a flying, what a great night. It's like the guy who jumps off a building. How you doing? Great, great. 2 minutes later, he's down, he crashes. So it's extremely, guys, this is an area we have to master. There's too much on the line. There's too much on the line, especially in this generation, where family is getting thrown out the window. Family is going thrown out the window. Women are calling 70% divorces today. It's a problem. We have a problem today, my friend. Marriage is not like what it was. There's major obstacles today. It's not like it was before. Today, the distractions are incredible. Distractions are incredible. But because we don't fall into this masculine energy, Hashem causes the woman to reject us or reject the situation. That's what's extremely important for men to do this. It's extremely, extremely important to do this, etc. That's why you could start with the Tikkun HaKlali. You could start with Tikkun HaKlali is one of the best things you could do. It's 10 Tehillim, and you read that every day. Go on my podcast, and it will change your life. It will absolutely change your life. And that's what's getting in a higher consciousness. Because when I become a giver, then Hashem can give through me. But when I become a receiver, if I'm asking God to give me something, receiving in a bad state, not only will the money not be good for me, but it will make me worse. This is why the word mammon, money, is the same numerical value as ladder. Ladder. Money can do great things. You can rise with money, you can do great things, you can become a giver, but money can also take you to the lowest places. It can make you arrogant, it can make you disconnected. So you can people either go up on the ladder or down the ladder. Money just makes you more of who you are. That's what money does. So depending what's on the inside, money could just expand you, or the opposite, it could actually contract you, etc. So these are things that I recommend. And believe me, I've gone through every psychology book. There's nothing but God that's going to save you. I've read all the psychology books. I own treatment centers. I have doctors that work for me. Nothing but God can save you. But you need to want to be saved. You can't get swallowed by a whale and ask, what's the Wi-Fi password at the whale? Imagine getting swallowed by Yonah. Yonah got swallowed by a whale. What's the Wi-Fi password? You need to say, I need to get the hell out of this whale. We need to have a sense of urgency, etc., etc. And this is extremely important because Rav Nachman says, when you fix this, you'll attract your mate. Your soulmate will come right to you. But when you don't, she'll run away from you. She'll run away from you. So it's really, that's the law of attraction. The law of attraction is, when I'm in the right masculine energy, my soulmate comes to me. When I'm in the wrong masculine, and when I'm in feminine energy, then my soulmate runs away from me. Now, I don't know, this is cute. I don't know how old you guys are. 25, 27, 30. But this could be 35, 40 in 10 years, and you're in the same seat. By the way, you will be in the same seat. You will be in the same seat. You need to understand that. I tell people in my treatment center, if you don't take this seriously, you're going to be in the same seat in 3 years. You'll be back in 3 years with the same situation. So you need to understand that. Don't say I have all the time in my life. Oh, I'm 23, I'm young, I'm going to relax. Wait until you start getting hooked on an addiction. Wait until you start getting hooked on something. You see how hard it is to break it. You see how hard it is to break it. I know I'm really pounding on the men today, but I feel like this is where I have to do today, guys. I feel like this is from heaven to send me. Anybody have any questions on these things? Anybody? Yes.
All right, so you mentioned about giving, right?
Yes.
So I think I've been a giver my entire life, and all my relationships haven't worked out. I think I gave too much. So is there ever a point where you give too much, and then because the other side's not receiving what you're giving, and it doesn't work out.
Yes, you can give too much. Remember, giving has to be with gevura. Okay, giving. If I'm giving because I want to be light. Okay, that becomes more of a. I'm trying to buy my friends. I feel low about myself, so I have to buy them. So that's not good giving. That's giving with low self-esteem. Because you're giving too much. So you should give the appropriate amount, but not too much. But in your general area, giving has to be what's your intentions. With this girl, is your intention for marriage or is your intention to get? You understand? Is it physical or is it... There's no greater way to sabotage a relationship than to get very physical in the beginning. That's a guaranteed way to sabotage it. Some of us think we're in love, but it's not really love, it's infatuation. It's the withdrawal, the dopamine, the ups, the downs, the crash. I'm not telling you to be a saint. I hear you. But when you get too physical in the relationship before you get spiritual, it's a guaranteed failure. It's a guaranteed failure. Because you're not functioning on it with a clear head. You're functioning on dopamine, withdrawals, adrenaline, highs, lows, crashes. It's not you have to get to know the person. So a lot of us sometimes we're test driving the car, and then okay, go buy the car. Well, maybe I need to test drive another car. So getting too physical before could be a very big problem. A very big problem. I know I'm like the party pooper here. It looks like tonight. Nobody's that happy here. But I got to tell you the truth. It hurts. You should be a little nauseous from the class. I'm happy you are. Okay, good. I always say to myself, if I'm not nauseous from something that bothers me, then I'm not going to change anything. If I'm too happy out of the class, that means I said nothing. I said absolutely nothing, and we wasted all of our time when we both could have been sleeping. Another question? Any more questions? Yes.
You said something earlier about too good, like the soccer game.
Yes. Very good.
So, and you said if it's too good, then no one wants it. So what if you're too good and no one wants it?
Okay, so again, why do you use a lampshade? Why do you use a lampshade?
Light's too bright.
It's too bright. Having too much light could actually bother you. So if you're too good, guys sometimes want what they can't have.
Sounds like it's their problem.
No. I'll tell you why. Okay. We've already. Let me do the damage, not you. Let me do this call, not you. If you become too nice, bottom line is in any relationship we need certainty, and we also need uncertainty. If there's too much certainty in the relationship, we don't know what to do with it. So you need a little Moroccan energy in the relationship. You need a little ups and downs. Yeah, because if there's too much certainty, it becomes boring. There's nothing to look forward to. You get it? So sometimes you can't be too nice. You have to be a little bit. Don't reveal everything. Reveal a little bit, little by time. You don't have to tell them. People go on a date. They tell the person the whole story, their whole life in one date. How about chapter 2 and chapter 3? You're too much revealing. So what you need to focus on is, yes, you have to have certainty and uncertainty. If there's too much, if you're revealing too much,
But if you're not revealing too much, you're too much light for people to handle.
then you need a better husband or better somebody else.
Okay, great answer.
You need to make a contraction. You're shooting too low. Or you're judging too much. Either you're shooting too low or you're judging too much. Maybe sometimes your role is to go help somebody. Does that make sense? So you got to ask yourself what's the whole point is you have to ask yourself what's the proper gevura. Chesed and gevura. Remember, chesed is kindness, gevura is restraint. Our job is to get to tiferet, which is right in the middle. You understand? Not too much to the right, not too much to the left, but balance in the middle. Balance in the middle. Yes.
Okay, so how would you define a perfect relationship? That's 50-50.
A perfect relationship is where both people are able to work on it. You understand? They can both work on it. Everybody's going to have flaws in relationships. Can you both work on it? How do you deal with conflict resolution? You understand? But I'm telling you right now, There's certain things that are going to help you regardless. For example, if you keep Nidar, if you keep Shabbat, there's certain things that heaven will help you. It's God says it black and white. Man is Ish, woman is Isha. If God is Yud K. So if you take the Yud K out of Ish and Isha, what do you get? Esh, fire. So if there's no godliness in the relationship, there's Esh. There's fire. So there's certain things you could do to improve the odds of the relationship, such as Taharat Mishpacha, Shabbat. There's certain things to help it. Does that make sense? The problem is if we don't want God in the relationship, then we're dealing with the odds of the world. Then we're dealing with the 70% divorce rate, women getting divorced. Then we're dealing with all kinds of things. We don't want to fall into odds. We want to live above the odds. Does that make sense? So it's very important you're speaking in your spiritual connection by having these things because it grounds you. God blesses the relationship. At the end of the day, you still need God to bless the relationship. And the more you go with God, the more blessings you'll see in the relationship. But the more you say, it's not for me, then God removes the Yud Hey. What happens if God removes the Yud Hey? Then you have Esh. What is Esh? Fire. What is fire? Ups and downs. We make up, we broke up again, we make up again, we broke up again. That's fire. It's fire. That's fire. Yes?
Will you have bracha on your money if your parnasa requires you to take? Give an example.
Will you have bracha of your money if your parnasa requires you to take?
You have a business that requires you to take from people.
No, but that's called a sale. Of course you have to take from people. No, that doesn't mean that way. No. You have to sell. You have to sell. What we're talking about is when your intention for your money should be 10% goes to charity. Because I am receiving, but at the end of the day, I'm giving. I'm channeling the money through me. The money's being channeled. I grew up in the Syrian community. I'm half Syrian. And I know Syrians that are worth billions of dollars, they can't even write their name. You understand Arabic, okay? But they're massive givers. In the Syrian community, it's in your head, you become a giver. Charity's not an option. It's not an option to give charity. Now, we go to some Persian communities, tighten up. It's fear-based. They're not giving like that. So a lot of the times, our parents are like, we have certain fears about money. And these fears about money cause you to do what? Not give. So sometimes if you think about it, I'm like, why is the Syrian community such givers? And some of the Persian community, not as much. It's because it's a different system Syrians got raised by giving, Persians got raised, you might lose it, so save it. And what happens is if you fear you're not gonna give it, God's not gonna give it to you. Anytime what fear does, fear stops giving. Fear causes you to stop the output, and it makes you stop in life. Yes. How do you know when to walk away? That's a good question. For marriage or from a relationship? Reb Natan tells us, what's your name? Yeah, you look familiar. I said, who's that girl? She looks familiar. Of course I did. Now I know who it is. She looks familiar. You walk away from a relationship once you prayed for it for 40 days. For 40 days straight. Our sages tell us in 40 days, you pray for something for 40 days straight, you'll get an answer. So 40 days, you pray for it, and then you get the answer. That's when you decide that move. We don't decide on an emotional text message or to walk away. People are breaking up relationships on a text message. You understand? You don't do that on a text message. You wait 40 days, you pray for it, and then you'll get the answer. Because remember, sometimes the problem itself is bringing you to prayer. We're thinking, I have a problem. No. Prayer doesn't get you out of trouble. Trouble gets you into prayer. You understand? Prayer does not get you out of trouble. Trouble gets you into prayer. We're thinking the opposite. No. A lot of the problems we have is because we've lost connection with God. So what happens? He causes trouble to get you into prayer. Once you connect, then he usually resolves the issues. We get stuck today a lot on the messenger. We don't focus on the message that God wants from us. The message that God wants from you is to get closer to him. That's the bottom line. How it's going to come? One guy's going to come through being single, another one's going to come from a breakup, another one's going to come from this. It's always going to come from something that's going to stimulate the God wanting to get closer to you. If you're smart, you see the big picture, and you say, this is from God. This has nothing to do, this person's the messenger. Get it? When we get stuck in life, and this is why we can't say that Paro chased us out of Egypt. No. God hardened Paro's heart and caused him to chase out of Egypt. And the purpose of him chasing us was so that we can get closer to God. But Paro was a stick of God. Paro was a stick of God. Just like the girlfriend rejecting you is a stick. It's saying you're rejecting yourself. You're not in masculine energy. So you're rejecting yourself, she's going to reject you also. Everything is, people in this world are just there to show us what we need to change in heaven. The worst thing we could do is get stuck on the messenger of the situation. It's the worst thing we could do, because we think it's the person. It's not the person. God sent you that person in 1 minute. God controls the heart of a person. In 1 minute, you do his will, they'll do your will. I mean, this stuff is like, whoa, what are you talking about? Yes, that's what happens. God is sending you people. This is why I came up with a theory called DBT. D, dismiss the messenger. Anytime you're in a problem, the first thing you want to do is dismiss the messenger. Dismiss the messenger. Don't think it's the messenger doing it to you. Dismiss him. Second, B, believe it's for the best. Believe that situation, that you're having an issue with the relationship, believe it's for the best, that it brought you to closer to God and into prayer. And T, thank God for the opportunity to get closer to him. And say thank you for it. Because at the end of the day, it's going to lead to your growth. And it's going to lead to a higher high. That means usually after a breakup, if it's handled well, there's a much higher high than the breakup would have happened. So sometimes you have to go through a breakup because it shatters the vessel in order for a new vessel to create. Does that make sense? You need sometimes things to completely crash on the floor. Sometimes you need things to just break. Because if you don't break them, they cannot be rebuilt with better. So I've seen that in my life. Things are completely broken. But every single thing that is broken, it's been rebuilt much better. This is why the Japanese, when they rebuild something, they rebuild it with gold. The cracks, they put it together, but they put it together with gold to show that it's a greater vessel, etc. It's a greater vessel, etc. Any more questions? Yes. My pleasure. Seven Zivugi. Right. Right. So bottom line is, even if you don't marry your zivug, and you guys working with each other in the relationship, then the Arizal says that person gets a spark of the zivug. So even if, let's say, this is not my zivug. It's not my zivug, but I married this person. But because you started loving each other, working with each other, then God sends the spark of the soul, of the original soulmate, into that person. That person will start changing. You say, what happened to this person? They got a spark. There's no reason to despair. That's too much in the movies. So I lost my zivug. I lost my soulmate. That's very, very Hollywoodish. Even if it's not the zivug, it could become the zivug. Does that make sense? That's why Rabbi Rush says you can marry the worst person and have the greatest marriage, and you can marry the best person and have the worst marriage. It's not the person, it's what you do in the relationship. What you do in that relationship for that. What you do, how you manage that relationship, how you handle the ups and downs, how you handle the flows. And again, the key for men in marriage is definitely self-control and self-confidence. But when we're not doing the right thing, we lose our confidence. And then what happens when you lose your confidence? Because the woman really looks up to you. You are supposed to look up to God. So she's relying on you, you're relying on God. So when you stop relying on God, she cannot rely on you anymore. See the situation? So then the whole house is dark. You don't have a relationship, and she's like, I can't trust this guy. He's not confident. And then she becomes turned off. She becomes turned off, etc. But that's why males have to take the lead. Males have to take the lead. I hate to tell it to you. The class is not being recorded, or maybe it is, but not on my podcast. But males have to take the lead. According to the Arizal, women are here just to help them in their mission. Males have to take the lead. You have to take the ball and you have to lead. And you can't do that if you got Christine on your phone number. So you can't do that if you're not focused, if you're not intentioned, it's all over the place. There's way too many single girls out there today. They're waiting on the sidelines for you guys to show up. They're waiting on the sidelines to show up. I see this in LA, New York, it's the same story. It's a disaster. Gotta show up. Gotta show up. Gotta show up. And I promise you, if you show up, it will change your life. It's gonna help you more than it's gonna help them. You gotta show up. You gotta show up. I don't know what to tell you. Yes?
Does that mean that men should be more religious than women in a relationship, or does it?
Men, that doesn't matter. Sometimes a woman is more religious. It depends on the situation and the tikkun. But men, forget religion right now. Focus on self-control. Self-control and self-confidence. The religion will come. When we have religion with no self-control and no self-confidence, we lose both. Does that make sense? You know what you need to do. You know that our male energy, our seed, is the most important thing. That's our power. When we lose it and we're using it the wrong way, instead of procreating it, it becomes. This is why, God forbid, porn and all these, it's such a bad problem. Why? It's because you're only receiving. You're not giving. What are you giving to? Nothing. So you're receiving, so you're going to get estrogen, for God's sake. You understand? You want testosterone or estrogen? Exactly. You want testosterone. So when you're giving with no receiver, it's like throwing the ball out of bounds. Imagine throwing the ball out of bounds, guys. There's no receiver. So you're wasting. You're wasting, then I can't give you the ball again if you're throwing it out of bounds. You stop the flow of Shefa. Wealth, family, it's all connected. It's one big, because why? Because when you get married, you become a giver. So God channels the Shefa through you. This is why the Gemara says that wealth comes through the wife. It comes through the wife because she's now the receiver. She's the moon. You're the sun. And there's a lot of pressure on the men to do this. But you know what? How could you not do it? That's really the question. How could you not do it? Yes?
Earlier you talked about how breaking your nature is down here, breaking your nature. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. When you break your nature below, God breaks his nature above. Let's say you're a cheap person and you don't like to give charity. So what happens? You break your nature, you give charity, then God gives you a reciprocal, he gives you something he didn't have to give you. Just like you didn't have to give charity, he doesn't have to give you money. But because you broke your nature, the same way. Let's say you're a guy and you break your nature, and all of a sudden you start going on a 40-day, you're able to control your Brit. So what happens? Because you can control yourself, he now brings you your wife. He changes. When we make moves below, there's a move above. For example, let's say you forgive somebody who's hurt you. Then what happens? Things in heaven you weren't forgiven for. But because you forgave somebody, then God has to now forgive you. That's how it works. The ball's in our court that we can always change any situation by making an action. That's the basis of Kabbalah. As below, so is above. Like you're never stuck. We're never stuck. The only reason why we're stuck is because we're thinking about ourselves all day long. That's why we're stuck. And we're not thinking what we need to do. we're thinking, why is this happening? How come I'm this involved? That's what we're stuck. We're stuck because we're self-centered. We're not stuck because we're giving. You can't get stuck if you're giving. You only get stuck if you're self-centered. 1 second. Yes? We'll answer your question.
How do you deal with an unhappy or depressed partner? And when do you know when to walk away? I was unsatisfied with your previous answer.
Okay. But is this a marriage or is this or is this what?
Relationship.
Relationship. So again, a lot of the reasons, remember, because this is not a PG-13 crowd, and we're getting real here, anytime you're having relations with your partner, they're downloading your stuff. You get me? So if you are yourself, if the download is not so great, what do you expect the receiver to get? So sometimes our spouses are getting our negative energy. So that's the first thing. Second, a lot of what I've seen in a lot of relationships, that a lot of people have unresolved trauma from childhood. That's a huge thing. And if they haven't healed that, you're going to be the blame for everything. So if that's the cause, you got to tell them, listen, we got to get therapy together. Otherwise, you have to break it. Sometimes you have to break it. Because a lot of these unresolved traumas from childhood, they show up in relationships. Where do you think they end up showing up? At the playground? They show up in relationships. A lot of unresolved childhood. For example, if you had a very tough childhood as a woman, and you had a very domineering man, a tough father, and it made you very competitive, it made you very masculine in your energy. So all of a sudden you start competing, and you don't trust, and you're not, and you get angry. That's from your childhood. You don't know how to receive. So when guys want to give to you, nothing's enough. So it's a big question. It's a big question, depending on what the issue is specifically. It could be a child, it could be the wrong energy, it could be your energy that's off. There's a lot of issues. It's a compound question. But without 40 days of prayer, you should never break up a relationship. Without 40 days, because the whole thing is, those 40 days, it's like an embryo. You're giving birth to something new. And that problem, there's another basis in Kabbalah that's called the problem is the solution. Okay? What does this mean? That every single problem itself contains the solution. The solution is never outside. It's in the problem itself. Does everybody understand that? The problem is always in the solution. You understand? The addiction is the problem. What's the solution? A spiritual awakening. Getting rejected and not being in your masculine energy, that's the problem. What's the solution? You aren't in your masculine energy. The problem shows you what to fix. It's never an outside thing. It's always in the problem itself. So don't think it's outside. What is in the problem that's happening? Maybe I have childhood issues that I haven't processed. Maybe I'm not in my right masculine energy. Maybe I'm holding resentful. So I have to fix the problem in the solution itself. That's the greatness of a problem. It's coming to teach you something. So when we have these problems, and we ghost God, or we go get high, and we can't bring up the problem to consciousness. So what do you think we get? Another problem. So it's extremely important. In the problem itself, you got to tackle it. You got to sit with it because it's coming to teach you something. It's coming to teach you growth. So this is why Rabbi Rush says, say thank you for my problems. Why does he say thank you for my problems? Because in the problem itself is an opportunity for growth. But we don't let them in. They come through judgment. Who had a question? Yes? Go ahead.
Thank you so much for everything.
My pleasure.
And I was curious, how do you know when it's appropriate to give someone a second chance? And also, how do you go about doing that?
Right. Anytime you're going to give somebody a second chance, it has to be with boundaries. You understand? You have to put a boundary. You can't go back and give a second chance with no boundary. Right? Because then you're already allowing this behavior. So always, anytime your second chance has to be with a new boundary, with a new system. But we should always give second chances. Why? This is why we have Passover, 2 Passovers. Passover 1 and Passover 2.
And how do you go about setting those boundaries?
You realize what boundary got crossed, what caused the relationship to fail. And then see if you can put a boundary. But remember, it all works with investing in self. Or maybe you got to get a therapist involved. You get me? Yes.
So you mentioned the importance of discipline for a man.
Sure.
To control anger, to hate, and
Yes.
whatnot. But one thing that I can't really wrap my head around is how can a man be disciplined to find his chair, or to start finding his work? I understand how you go to the gym, work out discipline, but how can you put yourself in the mindset of being disciplined to find your work?
Right. So just like the gym, the discipline is 80, for example, you can't outwork your diet, correct? Right? 80% is diet, 20% is the workout. Right? There's no way you can outwork it. If you don't eat well, you're not going to see the gains you're going to see. Bottom line. So the same thing with your dates is your 20%. Finding the one is 20%. It's what you're doing in private. That's the problem. Your diet is your self-control and your Brit. If you have that fixed, you're going to have confidence. So when you have confidence, the girl will come to you. We're not supposed to be chasing. Yes, because girls will be attracted to people who are confident and they're in the right energy. Make men great again. You control any kind of sexual Brits that you do. You work on, that's one thing. Let's say you're kosher there, okay? Let's say you're glad kosher there, okay? Second out, then you work on your confidence. Your confidence, your emotions. Controlling your emotions, not needing to argue all the time. You understand? That's another thing. Listen to my podcast. Focus also on growth, that you're always growing. That's how you attract them. But usually what the problem is the sadness and the chasing and all that. We'll ask a few more questions and we're good. Yes?
You're telling us that when we give, we will receive.
Yes.
Now, subconsciously or consciously, I'm only going to give to receive.
So we always have that in our head that we're going to give to receive. But eventually, because you feel great from giving, you're going to end up getting to giving to give. So of course, we have to start by giving to receive. But eventually, because you're going to feel so great by giving, you're going to get to giving to give. You understand? We start something even with the wrong intention, it becomes the good intention. Does that make sense? People that say, a good example of this is, let's say a guy has got diabetes, and all of a sudden he has to go work out. So he's really giving to receive. He's working out because he doesn't want to have diabetes. But at the end of the day, because he's working out so much, he starts loving to work out. So now he's loving to work out and forget the diabetes. He's just enjoying the working out. So that becomes a giving to give. You get it? It becomes, you end up enjoying it while you're doing it. Yes?
First of all, thank you for coming. I've been told to listen to your speeches a lot, now I'm kicking myself for not doing it.
It's okay. There's a time for everything.
Before you mentioned like the chill rabbi, the rabbi that says, "Oh, just have them complete stuff," whereas your style of teaching is you start as review, which is very, very valuable.
Okay.
Is there a balance between those two? Is there value in the chill rabbi?
Yes. The chill rabbi, listen, I love Chabad. I'm a big follower of Chabad, I'm a big supporter of Chabad. But you'll usually see the same guys Friday night there for 10 years without growth. Would you agree to that or no? 100%. Okay. So technically, they're in chesed mode. They just want to get you in the door. But you really need Rav Nachman to get you to second base. Okay? We can't start with you need the chill rabbi at the door. We all need that. Nobody can handle it. Nobody wants to be judged. Nobody wants this. But if you're interested in growth, and you realize that how much lack of growth is affecting you, then you need to hop on another bus. So when I was there, I'm like, listen, this is not doing it for me anymore. I need more. That's when I found Rabbi Nachman's teachings. So Rabbi Nachman's teachings are more disciplined, but with a lot of warmth and hope. But chill is not such a good word right now.
What's the word?
Discipline. Discipline is freedom. Discipline is happiness.
Is there a value and balance in both styles?
there's no way you can have happiness if you don't have any discipline, because you won't trust yourself. You understand? If I don't have discipline, I cannot invest in myself past 2 weeks, because I know I'm not going to do it. So it's going to lead me. For example, how do we get dopamine in life? We get dopamine through growth, right? Through growth. How do you get serotonin? Through giving. How do you get oxytocin? Through connection. So if you're not growing, what are you going to give? And what are you going to connect? So the problem with the chill rabbi is, it's nice when you're on vacation, but not for life.
Is there a point where the learning of this matters so much that you feel very low self-esteem, you feel terrible about yourself, which can be countered?
Yes, that's why you need Rabbi Nachman, because he knows how to pick us up. Rabbi Nachman's teachings have tremendous hope and tremendous courage and tremendous warmth. But at the same time, let me ask you a question. What would be a great parent? If, let's say, we had a parent that has high expectations and high warmth. Is that a good parent? Huh? That's a great parent, right? But let's say we had a parent that was high warmth, no expectation. The chill rabbi. So what is that now? It's an enabler. It's an enabler. But let's say you had a high expectations, no warmth. That you don't want to deal with. So you need the high expectations, and you also need the high warmth. And that's what Rabbi Nachman can do for us. He can give us that. Okay? Are we good?
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
You said earlier women are the receivers.
Women generally are the yes.
We live in a world today where things are flipped.
Correct.
Women struggle to receive because we provide for giving all the time. What are some good examples of how men can be better givers and women can be better receivers?
Right. So how do men become better givers, and we already said, how do men become better givers? When they're in the right energy, when they lead, when they're confident, when they have self-esteem, when they influence. And women sometimes, because let's say the guy makes a mistake, okay? Or let's say the girl's got daddy issues. She wants to try to overpower herself by competing. So let's say a guy wants to come and give her, she'll become way too masculine. So she has to back off and trust. She has to trust in the guy. She has to rely on him. She has to let him lead, not mother him. Because what happens is when girls become too masculine, they start mothering the guy. They tell him what to do, how to drive. You're not doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong. And that becomes a turnoff.
But if she doesn't do that, if she's perfect, and if he rejects her?
Then you got the Guinness World Records for being the perfect woman. Okay. Change the location.
What if you already did?
Don't say you're perfect. That's already the problem. Nobody's perfect. You need a little gavura. Or pray. Sometimes we go through these problems in order to get a better mate. Hashem should bless you. You should have the right mate to come to you. Yes. Right. This relationship, if you think about it, this relationship that what's happening today is when to trust and what to trust. The reason why we're having these issues, think of what is our relationship with God supposed to be? When we're in a feminine, we are the feminine, God is the masculine, right? What do we learn all day long? Have trust in God, let go, control, let God lead, right? Trust in Him that everything's for the best, right? Believe. So if you think about how our relationship is with God, it should be your relationship should be with the guy the same way as a girl, because you're the feminine. My relationship with God should be, I need to trust in God. I need to let God lead. Right. So you cannot obviously if the guy cannot give, and he's got addiction issues, he's got low self-esteem, then sometimes you have to walk away from these relationships. Nobody knows the full story, no. Right, but you'll see little by little if the guy's how he handles obstacles, how he handles challenges. You'll start seeing it little by little. Yeah. Guys, God bless everybody. God bless everybody. I'm sorry for being too hard on you guys tonight. But if I have to come here at 9:30, we're gonna go Moroccan tonight. So sorry guys. Sorry if I